Fairbanks Focus Alaska View is brought to you by the University of Alaska Fairbanks, Alaska's first university, and the Fairbanks Economic Development Corporation, bringing economic development to interior Alaska.
Good morning and welcome to Fairbanks Focus Alaska View. On today's show, my guest is Scott Shire, and he is an archaeologist over at the University of Alaska Museum of the North. Thank you so much, Scott, for being on the show this morning.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into it. So, what got you interested in working in archaeology?
Well, when I was an undergraduate student back in Indiana, at Indiana University, in the late 90s, I took a field school the summer after my freshman year, and we got to go out and excavate at a site, and that's when I really got into it and kind of fell in love with it, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. So switched my major over and got my degree, and yeah, the rest is history, I guess. Yeah.
Indiana from Alaska, though. What brought you up to Alaska?
Well, a summer job. So some job postings got put on the internet on this website, actually, just for archaeology field jobs, to work on a summer field crew at Fort Greely down in Delta Junction, doing some surveys on Army land. So I applied for the job. I'd always been interested in coming to Alaska, and they called me and offered me the job, and I took it and came up for that summer, and then just fell in love with it up here, and came back for a couple more summers, and then decided to go back to graduate school at UAF. In 2005, and did that. Yeah, and finished my master's degree in 2007, and then transitioned into this job that I have now at the museum.
And what do you do for the museum?
Well, my title's a research archaeologist, so I'm a full-time staff member there. So basically, I head up a lot of our field projects in the summer. So we cooperate with federal land agencies like the Park Service or Fish and Wildlife Service to go out onto their lands and do archaeological surveys to look for sites, but then also to go back and revisit known sites and do condition assessments and make sure sites aren't eroding away and things like that. So I head up field projects, but then also in the winter at the museum we house most of the archaeology collections from around the state of Alaska. So basically whenever an archaeologist goes out on a project and they collect artifacts or specimens, eventually all of that stuff gets cataloged and housed at the museum right here in Fairbanks. And we've been collecting artifacts since the museum started back in the 1920s. So during the winter, a lot of what we do is we employ undergraduate and graduate students at UAF, and we work at updating the storage situation of a lot of the older collections. So I also help out with those types of projects in the winter.
Do you have a favorite couple of pieces in the collections?
Yeah, well, a lot of my favorites are actually on exhibit. So there's the Akvik Madonna, which is this carved ivory figurine of a woman holding a child, and it was collected at a site called Kukulik over on St. Lawrence Island, and it dates to about 2,000 years old. And that's on display, that's on exhibit in the museum upstairs in the art gallery. So
oh, wow.
That's probably one of my favorites, yeah.
And you've been doing research over in the northwestern part of Alaska.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct.
What have you been doing out there? What sites have you been exploring?
So so we're looking at 3 sites on that project. That's one of 2 of my major field projects, mm-hmm. and we'll be going back out this July. So it's a project we started in 2010 in cooperation with the National Park Service. So it's 3 sites in Noatak National Preserve, which is a really large preserve in northwest Alaska, kind of centered on the Noatak River. And it falls under, it's part of the national parks in Alaska. So there's 3 late prehistoric village sites, and we've been to 2 of them so far, and we're going to go visit the 3rd one. This is the final year of the field project this summer. And basically these are sites that have been known about for quite a while, since the 60s and 70s they were first recorded, but they're pretty remote. So people archaeologists really haven't gotten back out to them since they were first recorded, really. So we're just going back and doing some test excavations to try and collect artifact samples and samples of the animal bones that are at the sites, and bring those back so we can analyze them and study them and just kind of learn more about the people that used to live at the sites. But in addition to that, we're also collecting charcoal and organics so we can radiocarbon date each of the sites and figure out the time period that people were living there. So.
Aha, that was my next question.
Oh, okay.
Is how old are the artifacts that you're finding?
Yeah, that's a good question. We haven't actually run any radiocarbon dates yet. We're going to wait till we go back out and do the third site, and then we'll send all of our radiocarbon samples in together. We can't do that at the museum. We take samples and we send them off to a lab, and then they run the dates for us, and then we just get the results of the analysis. But that being said, a lot of the artifacts that we're finding and just a lot of the features at the sites tell us that they were likely occupied within the last 1,000 years or so. So anywhere from 100 to 1,000 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, they're pretty neat sites. So yeah, each one is a village site. So when we go back out to these sites, there's evidence of house ruins. So there's a lot of house depressions out there. So we'll dig test units inside the houses to collect artifacts and things out of them. But then also each one of these village sites has a really large house, communal structure with these large boulder-lined foundations, which is pretty unique. And then a lot of the boulders on these house foundations also have petroglyphs or rock art on them, which is also pretty unique. So that's another reason why we're going back out to these sites, is because they're kind of unique and in their own ways. They have these, with the rock art, it's just uncommon for that part of Alaska. So
yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty neat. It's an exciting project.
Well, and what projects are you working on with the fisheries?
Well, we did a fish and wildlife project 2 years ago. And that was a much smaller project, just a 1-year thing, and we did some archaeological surveys in Koyukuk National Wildlife Refuge, which is along the Koyukuk River, just north of its confluence with the Yukon. And so not a lot of archaeological work's been done in that refuge either. So basically we just went out and picked some spots to try and find new sites. So we spent 10 days out in the refuge and found 12 new archaeological sites, I think.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty exciting. But the projects that we do, the 2 projects I do now are all through the National Park Service. So.
And what would be some of your dream projects to work on? If you could,
if I could do
work
anything?
on anything.
Well, my favorite time period is kind of the late prehistoric, which refers to the last 1,000 years. So this site up in Noatak National Preserve, that really is kind of my dream project. But there's also several more of these large village sites outside of the park. So I guess it would be really neat to go back to some of those sites that are further north and on BLM land. So it'd be really neat to get funding to just continue the studies that we're doing now. Would be really neat.
And as going back to the collection at the UA Museum, is it, if there are general public just interested, is there any way that we can see what's down there? Because not everything's on display.
Yes, that's true. That's a good point. There's a lot of collections down in the research area that don't get on display as regularly. So yeah, it's really great that you bring that up, because on June 21st, there's going to be an open house at the museum from noon to 4. And basically there's free admission for the general public, so people can come and get into the museum for free and tour around the exhibits upstairs. But then for those between noon and 4, we're also going to have the downstairs open that the public usually doesn't get to see. So people will be able to come down into the research space there and visit all the labs of the different departments and talk to the curators and collections managers and researchers and students that work there, and just learn more about kind of what goes on behind the scenes at the museum. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. June 21st.
June 21st, noon to 4. Yeah.
Noon to 4. I will definitely be sure to be there.
Yeah.
That sounds
Please
really
come down.
interesting. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Scott, for being on the show this morning.
Of course. Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Awesome.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Fairbanks Focus Roundtable. Today we have Lisa Herbert, Executive Director of the Fairbanks Chamber of Commerce, and Lorna Shaw, Board Director of the Fairbanks Chamber of Commerce, here to talk about the upcoming Golden Days celebrations. So welcome to the roundtable, ladies.
Hi, Sean. Thanks for having us.
Sure thing. So first off, let's talk about what Golden Days is and a little bit about the history of Golden Days, if you would.
Sure. Do you want me to start?
Sure.
So Golden Days, well, back when, it was the gold rush days, Felix Pedro discovered gold here on July 22nd, 1902. And 50 years later, the pioneers of Alaska thought that they should honor the discovery of gold and what really made Fairbanks on the map. And so they created the first Golden Days celebration, and it was packed full of a parade, which still exists today, but lots of like the Pioneer Mug Up and just lots of activities that the community came out and celebrated. And over the years, it's morphed into a different kind of celebration, but really still paying tribute to our gold time history.
Paying tribute to the mining past of Fairbanks.
Yeah, which is
the first great
something
boom
Lorna knows
sort
a lot
of
about.
Fairbanks, right? And all right, so and when was the first Golden Days?
First Golden Days was 1952.
All right.
So we're 60 years later, and there's a lot going on, and I think, folks who've been in Fairbanks a long time know what to expect. There's a lot of activities, and I think it's a great community celebration, an opportunity for people to come out and celebrate the history of Fairbanks, but also what we have today. And I think you look out and you look at the Fairbanks economy, and gold is still something that drives our economy. We've got 2 large mines here in Fairbanks and another one hopefully someday soon on the way. But it's a good opportunity to celebrate what founded Fairbanks and what still keeps us here today. With all the different opportunities for celebration, there's also opportunities for volunteers. And I think, Lisa, I don't know if you were going to ask anybody to help, but I think if there's anybody out there looking for something to do besides just go to the event.
So we'll get that out of the way first then. We'll do the call for volunteers. So,
Yeah, so
the Fairbanks Chamber of Commerce is actively seeking volunteers for Golden Days.
For sure. There's really something for everyone, whether it's, you want to help organize one of the events, you want to volunteer to help sell rubber ducky race tickets, you want to hang out with the kids at Kids Day. There really is something every day of the week, Wednesday through Sunday, that you can get involved in. And it's really easy. You can just go to our website at fairbankschamber.org, click the I Want to Volunteer button, and just kind of see what fits your schedule. If it's an hour, 2 hours, a whole day, we'll take it. But
and what are the days?
So Golden Days will kick off, actually we'll do a luncheon on Tuesday, and then officially it'll kick off Wednesday evening.
And that's a luncheon at Pioneer Park?
Lunch at Pioneer Park, yes. And actually we're bringing up a motivational speaker this year, Dennis Waitley, who's an Olympian motivational speaker, and he's got a well-rounded background. And so I think he's definitely tying it into Golden Days, of course. So turning your goal mind into a gold mine. And so he should be, yeah, exactly. So it's all Golden Days, and then we've got some special things that we'll do. We'll do a history of, show some old footage from the past parade celebrations, and really Golden Days has had the longest parade in the history of Alaska for many years. Yeah. So this year we have another record number of entries. We are at 88 entries so far, and today is actually the last deadline. So by the time this airs, no more.
You'll be out of
cut
luck.
off. Yes.
All right. Well, that's a shame. And so what is the role of the Chamber of Commerce in Golden Days? And in other words, why is from the start of it and historically up to the present, why is it the Chamber of Commerce has been tasked with operating the Golden Days festivities?
Well, I think it's a natural fit. It's a great celebration of our community, past and present. And when you look at who is participating in Golden Days from a sponsorship perspective, it's all the businesses here in Fairbanks. And so this is a great opportunity for them to give back to the community, and it's a great opportunity for their employees to get involved. So I think from that perspective, it's a natural fit. Historically, Lisa, do you want to explain how it landed in our map?
The pioneers really started it, and then we had a past president of the Chamber's board of directors was affiliated with the pioneers, and then the 2 chairs, and I can't remember their names right now, but they kind of came together, and it's really just stuck with the Chamber ever since. And it's funny because our board of directors sometimes when we have our board retreats talk, well, why does the Chamber do Golden Days? And then we get back to it, and it's, well, the Chamber's kind of always done Golden Days, and if the Chamber were to get rid of it, what would happen to Golden Days? But it's really interesting because I am really passionate about Golden Days. Obviously, this is my 6th or 7th one to coordinate. But when you go back, Jack Wilbur was the president of the board a couple years ago, and he asked me to do a historical presentation to the Rotary Group, and I thought, well, I don't have anything historical, but I will do my best. So I spent about 2 days in the Nolwenn Library going through old microfiche and looking at the articles that were in the paper, and the community support then, it was overwhelming, and it was actually quite amazing that it made me feel like Golden Days has changed quite a bit. And of course that's going to happen with everything, but when you look at the businesses and what they did in the parade itself, and the floats that were entered, and the passion that they put behind their entries, it was really amazing to watch. And so I would encourage everybody to dress up for Golden Days. And the Golden Days shop went away a couple of years ago, and that's where everybody kind of went to get their costumes and wear them around for the week. Well, she closed up and she moved out of state, and we weren't really sure what happened to all of her stuff. Well, I got a phone call yesterday, and Chartreuse, who's operating in the downtown area, just purchased all of the Golden Days stuff that was from the Golden Days shop.
Oh, wow.
So
We have a source.
yes, if
Hey.
you are looking for a Golden Days costume, there is absolutely no reason why people cannot be dressed up. And so,
And what do people usually dress up like?
so period costume from
Okay.
1902 era, and so you've got the floozies, you know, shaking their,
Right, okay.
you know, garters and legs and all that good stuff. And then you have the more modern ladies that were in the home and with the traditional aprons, and she has some really great stuff in there. She's got vests for the guys and hats and old garters. I mean, just 2 boxes full of garters and
Wow.
Is
old
she renting
pins.
them or selling them?
She is, I think she's trying to sell them. She bought the whole collection, and so it's really great that I think that there's now a place where people can go, because let's just face it, everybody's busy, and so you either have a costume that you had from, you know, passed down to you, or you have to make your own. And so now we've got the costumes back, and I think it's going to be really great. I went over there yesterday and purchased a whole rack of stuff for the chamber office.
Oh, wow.
So we'll be able to rent out some costumes now, and so it's just something fun, and the chamber staff is going to try to get dressed up a couple of days during the celebration, and I think we need to bring it back to what Golden Days celebrated in 1952 and try to get the business community behind that. I mean, the politicians weren't in the parade handing out
Right,
you know,
yeah.
political pamphlets. They were in the parade dressed up in period costume, but still involved on a different level. And so, I mean, everything has changed, but
So this kind of like raucous celebration of self, sort of.
Yeah.
You want to bring it back to that.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, I guess when I kind of look at it, I feel bad that it's really more commercialized, and which is still great for the businesses. But I would think it'd be awesome to I mean, Everett's, they put their airplane in every year, and you know, and Cliff is going to be 90 years old, and he's going to be behind the airplane driving that in the parade. And so the George Clayton number 16 entry, we
Right.
retired that number. It was in the parade footage that I saw recently, and it looks a lot different then than it does now, but it's still in the parade, and it'll always be number 16, and his daughter actually drives that in the parade now in his
Oh, that's
honor.
fantastic.
So
That's
yeah,
neat.
it's still
And-
in the family.
When is the parade?
So the Kinross Fort Knox Mine Grand Parade is on July 21st. It's a 2.7 mile parade route, and you can view that from the Carlson Center, where it'll kick off, and it'll rope in through downtown Fairbanks, and it'll end at the corner of Airport and Noble. So
Oh, it goes that far? I didn't realize
Yep.
that. And then what, it goes down Second?
Yep, it'll come right down 2nd Avenue in front of Soapy Smith's and Lavelle's and all of that good stuff. And
What
I
about
think
that construction, though? Is it?
we've
how about the parade route?
DOT has promised that the corner of Barnett Street will be open and ready for
Right.
the parade. So
Okay.
fingers crossed, everything will work out really well. And if it's not, we'll have to come down past Big Daddy's, I think, through 2nd Ave there. But we'll get
in
it together.
true Fairbanks style, you just have to make do.
That's exactly. So Saturday really is probably the busiest day of Golden Days from the staff's perspective and from spectators. There's something to do from the entire day. And we've tried to encourage people to create their own Golden Days events. And so a lot of the businesses have stepped up and they get engaged. So Saturday we've got the Kinross Fort Knox Mine Grand Parade. You've got the Santina's Flowers and Gift Rubber Ducky Race, which really, that's probably the biggest question we get sometimes is, well, what are the proceeds go to for the duck race? Well, when you think about 5 days of activities to put on, the Chamber is a local nonprofit. And so, we do a kickoff party where we give 2,000 free All-American meals. We do a senior luncheon where we feed seniors 400 free meals, and really just celebrating all that they do for our community. We do a free kids day. We do a comedy night, a parade, a street fair. And so there's all these events that are tagged along into, 5 days of celebration.
Right. And then, Lauren, maybe you could talk to this a little bit. And maybe it's not measured necessarily in strict financial terms, but what do you see as the positive economic impact of having this 5-day celebration in Fairbanks or on the for Fairbanks?
Certainly from a downtown perspective, it brings a lot of people downtown. I don't know what the parade attendance is, but every year I've tried to watch the parade. I have never been successful. I've always gotten roped into being in the parade for some reason or another, but someday I will watch the parade. When you go along the parade route though, it is, 10 people deep all the way along the entire route. So it brings people downtown. I think it's a great celebration of what we have today. At Pioneer Park, where there are all of the festivities, it's a great opportunity for the businesses in Fairbanks to give back. Is it Alyeska that's doing the children's games?
Yep, Alyeska Pipeline's doing the Young Pioneers Day. BP sponsors the senior luncheon. ConocoPhillips is sponsoring the kickoff party. Chevy of Fairbanks is sponsoring comedy night. So you've got MacFredo Credit Union sponsoring the street fair. And so, you look at those businesses and it's, the oil industry, it's the car industry, it's the banking industry. And so I think it really kind of speaks to the volume of involvement that we get from the community too. And then I think it's a way for the parade entries, especially if you're a commercial entry, to promote kind of what you do. And I think it's an excellent opportunity for the nonprofits in the town who really work hard at ensuring a good quality of life here, that they are able to promote what they do in a different way rather than asking for money. And so, that's just the times that we're in. And so it's interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. And not to leave out the mining industry too there.
Absolutely.
Right? How this all started.
Does the parade,
yep.
And Pogo contributed to the rubber duck race. We just had the early bird drawing, and $2,000 of that was donated by Pogo, $2,000 from Boston's as well. And the winner was Nancy Hahnemann, who is a geologist in her own right, and also married to somebody who works at Live and Good. So it was a great.
It was pretty, it kind of all came back together.
That was not planned.
So I have to ask about the rubber ducky race.
Yeah.
How did that start? How does that play into the Golden Days
I'll give
theme?
You 2 words.
They are yellow, I guess.
Yes.
2 words, Howie Thies.
All right.
And so, that man is a master of creating fun things for people to spend money on. And so, but whether it's Arctic Moon or the Rubber Ducky Race, 2 really long-standing events now in Fairbanks. This is the 25th anniversary of the duck race.
Wow.
And last year we actually sold out of duck tickets about 2 hours before the actual event, and people were just so upset. So we added some ducks into the race. We added more prizes into the race this year. And so there's, that's another great thing, I think, too. 48 outlets around town are selling duck tickets for the chamber. And so we've got Santina's selling them, Boston's is selling them, Brugger's, Yukon Quest. And so for them, whether they're coming in to spend money right then or they're just coming to buy their tickets, they're still walking in the doors of those businesses, kind of seeing what they have available. And, I now know that Santina's has a gorgeous display of necklaces and could go there next time and could do my Christmas shopping.
Right, yeah.
And so that's one of the benefits, I think, as well. And we changed it this year. The board had a really great retreat earlier, and we thought, how can we kind of alleviate some of the pressure off the staff, because we are only an office of 5 putting on a whole week-long celebration. So we thought,
to everything else.
yeah,
Right, yeah. In addition to being the Chamber of Commerce, right?
Exactly. And so what we did this year, I think, is working out really well. That local nonprofit organizations that have to do a lot of fundraising throughout the year, particularly the youth organizations, we offered them the availability to sell 1,000 worth of tickets and then be able to give them back, donate a portion of our proceeds back to their organizations.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we've got the True North All-Stars competitive cheer team, we've got Polarettes from Fort Wainwright, we have, I'm blanking on some of our organizations.
North basketball?
Nope, the basketball team's not. We've got, the Tennis Association is doing one. So a lot of these organizations that have youth involved that are constantly going out to the business community asking for support to get them from here to there, they now have a chance to be a part of a community celebration and earn some of that money.
Yeah, that's
in a
fantastic.
rightful way. And they've been doing a great job. A lot of them have been coming in for refills of tickets, so
Oh, wow.
it's working out pretty well in their favor.
Yeah, I got to tell you, when my first Golden Days, when the rubber ducky race started off, it starts at the Wendell Street Bridge,
Yep.
right? And there's these throngs of people were rushing, in Golden Heart Plaza towards the river, and I was like, what's going on? And then I kind of weaseled my way in, and I was like, oh, there's a rubber ducky race happening
Yeah.
here.
1,000 rubber ducky.
And
7,000 rubber ducky.
it was unusual for sure, but it was definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we've got 7,000 this year, and each year it started with 4,000, then we added to 5,000, 6,000, and 7,000, and it's funny because
And every ticket corresponds to a duck, right?
correct. So
Right.
there's one duck, and there's a $5 winner and a $10 potential winner for that one duck. So
Okay.
there's 14,000 tickets in total with 7,000 ducks. And so the cash that we give away is $27,000, and if you add up all of the major prizes, Arctic Home Living's hot tub, Frontier Supplies, pellet stove, airline tickets on Alaska Airlines and Condor Airlines, you add up all that stuff, it's well over probably $75,000 in prizes.
All right.
So.
That's fantastic. Well, so in closing, if you could just, I guess, tell us the dates and how people can get in contact if they want to volunteer.
Sure.
And where these events will be going on in case, if and when people would like to go.
So
and see them.
Wednesday, July 18th through Sunday, July 22nd. Most everything Wednesday through Friday will be at Pioneer Park under the tent that's sponsored by the Alliance, the Fairbanks North Star Borough, and the News Miner. And then Saturday, we'll move things downtown. Saturday evening, there's back activities under the tent at Pioneer Park. There's actually a first time ever Golden Days weightlifting competition happening at 4 p.m. that evening, sponsored by CrossFit. And then Sunday, of course, is the wrap up of Golden Days. You've got the KUAC Red Green River Regatta, you got the Governor's Picnic, and of course, you have the bathtub races put on by the Pioneer Park vendors. So Wednesday through Sunday, there's something to do every single day for all ages, and there's no reason why you can't come down and support Golden Days this year. For more information, you can check us out on Facebook at the Fairbanks Chamber of Commerce page, or go to fairbankschamber.org, or call us at the office, 452-1105.
Fantastic. And that is July 18th, Wednesday, July 18th to Sunday, July 22nd. And thank you, Lorna and Lisa, for being on.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. See you next time.